of frustration.
Silly mistakes again.
Full of despair.
I don't even know if I'll have a club tomorrow.
From years of hurt, disappointment, and relegation.
It could be League 2 next season.
Bolton are down, Norwich are down.
Two British football fans have had enough. Canary bird Elliot Holman and wanderer Henry Hewitt are in search of glory.
Get in!
Pride.
It's been a joy to watch.
Passion.
Nanny!
In search of silverware.
MLS Cup champions, baby!
And they found
ATL.
Orlando!
Major League Soccer.
Welcome to the MLS UK show. My name's Elliot Holman.
And I'm Henry Hewitt.
And we'll start, as always, with a get in! Shout out to the Inter Miami fans who have joined us for this episode. There's probably not many. It won't just be about that. Maybe.
This is the MLS UK show.
The MLS UK show with Lucid FC, a distinctively modern, casual fashion label. Take a look at lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk and see why celebrities love the look. This season's current line is called What's Your Effing Club? Which is your F? Football, fashion, or film? If it's football, you're in the right place. Film, the MLS UK show podcast is now available to watch on YouTube. But fashion, it's always lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk.
Well.
Have you enjoyed MLS recently?
It's taking on a whole new meaning in my life. I loved MLS. For the last 5 years I've loved MLS, but now I really, really love MLS. It's good fun.
That's funny because I've fallen out of love with MLS recently. It's won't be getting much from this side of a desk today.
It's just so sweet. I've suffered for too long, especially with you. Did you watch the Orlando-Atlanta game?
No, I didn't. If you remember last time, I said I was actually away. I was in Wales.
Convenient.
Had a lovely weekend in Wales. And, you try... This is the problem we have here in the UK. You try and stay up for the matches, but if you've been really busy in the day, I've been travelling, and you get to midnight and you're just like, like that. So...
how's it go?
So I fell asleep, and then I woke up in the morning, and do you know when you wake up and before you look at your phone and before you really get proper consciousness, you kind of dream up scenarios of what's happened.
Yeah.
And I'd honestly dreamt up that Orlando had beaten Atlanta 7-0. So I'd woke up in my days, I was like... Oh,
mate, the day that happens, this podcast isn't worth recording.
I'm like, I'm not going to check my phone. Oh, my God, this is horrible. Like, what am I going to do on the podcast? I'm going to have a load of messages from Orlando fans. Oh, this is going to... I reached over my phone, I got it, and I was like, oh, it was nothing on my phone, actually. That's weird. So then I looked at the score, and it said 1-1, and I was like, oh, wow, this is like... And then I saw how it happened, last-minute goal.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd ever celebrate a draw against Orlando. But
this is the thing. The tweets that it was interesting because I didn't mind the tweets that I got from Atlanta fans. It was very much laughing because they'd sort of nicked it in the last minute. But I think that's definitely progress. I think that has to be seen as progress because a year ago... the tweets I was getting was like we'd been hammered, you'd played us off the park. So it was quite nice in a way that the only sort of comeback that they had was that they'd got a draw. It was annoying because we dominated the game, but that's football. But it's definitely taken an upward turn this season, definitely.
I mean, Atlanta at the moment just hanging on in there in the playoffs.
Last spot.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the playoffs. MLS have updated the schedule and changed playoff spots because Nashville have obviously come into the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
This has now meant that, I know you like to say that MLS have biased over Atlanta, but giving the East more playoff places...
It's ridiculous.
...is,
Atlanta aren't going to make the playoffs. What we're going to do? Just add another spot. Which they currently occupy.
So we'll talk about that and everything else that's been happening in MLS shortly. But I guess...
But first...
Yeah, we need to start with how we start every episode on the MLS UK show.
It's time for the game with the change in name. And this is I don't know, this is one of those where I'm a bit mind blown. this person completely escaped my attention when it comes to MLS, and I don't really know how. So I'm excited for this one. I'm going to give you the career path of a player who has played both in the UK and in MLS, and you have to try and work out who it is. Okay. Now, they started their career in 2008 with Macclesfield Town.
Oh,
huge team.
Local to us where we're recording this at the moment.
It is, yeah, just up the road. After 41 appearances and 3 goals, they got a move to New York Red Bulls.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, with those stats, I would say he's not a striker, but I mean, playing for Macclesfield Town, he could well be a striker.
He didn't score for New York Red Bulls. He did score, however, for Orlando City in 2012. He moved to Orlando just a year after being at Red Bulls. Played 9 times, scored 2 goals. Obviously, this would be in the USL.
Yeah.
Then came back to the UK and played for Barnsley, Bury, Chester, Wrexham, Guiseley, Barrow. I was there yesterday. And currently plays for Stockport County.
Wow, okay.
But who is it?
So he's played for my hometown team, Bury.
So it's a very strange career path.
Yeah.
And when you find out who it is, you're going to be like, wow.
I don't even know where I'd start with that.
They've got a relation that played in MLS.
I mean, the only relation that comes in my head at the moment is Sean Wright-Phillips, and we all know that Sean Wright-Phillips has had a better career than that. I'm going to have to think about this one. I don't know.
Sean Wright-Phillips played at Phoenix, I believe.
He did. He played at Red Bulls and Phoenix. Yeah, I don't know. He's played for my hometown team, Bury. Poppy, who does the kit reviews, her hometown team, Barnsley.
Yeah.
So there is a link to me there, but I don't know at the moment. So if you know, get in touch. Tweet us at MLS UK Show. Get in touch on Instagram and Facebook as well. And or comment below if you're watching on YouTube.
Their brother has won the Premier League and has played in MLS.
Did he win it for Leicester?
No.
All right, so he's played for one of the top 6. He didn't play for Blackburn, did he?
It's not like Alan Shearer or something. Have a little think, see if you know. By the way, just as a little added incentive to play along, the surname of the player,
Yeah.
if you can get it, I'm going to add it as a discount code for the Get In t-shirts. So you'll be able to get 10% off on the Get In store with this code. And it's the surname of the player on the game with a change in name.
Wow, okay. Well, what an incentive that is. When are we making the other colours, by the way? I got asked this the other day.
I think it's probably best to wait until Atlanta are kind of, got something to celebrate.
Well, that's not going to be for a while, is it?
If you'd like some for your team, by the way, if you want them in your team colours, let us know. We've had requests for LA Galaxy, maybe like a nice midnight blue,
Montreal
with the yellow.
well.
Yeah, Montreal, obviously Atlanta. So send us your request for your club and we'll see who we do next.
Yeah.
Someone, actually good. Right, here we go. Let's get underway, shall we? Let's talk about what's been going on in MLS. It's so hard to keep up with. It's like... Do you know when you fly a kite and then it's a little bit too windy? I feel like we're just being pulled around everywhere. Like there's so much going on. Trying to cover MLS at the minute is so difficult. I was in work this morning.
Yeah.
Before the LA game finished.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea of how ridiculous the scheduling is at the minute for MLS, how difficult it is to watch in the UK. The LA game had only just kicked off when I woke up. And by the time I came into work, it was still going.
Yeah, I mean, for a bit of context, you do present a breakfast radio show, so it's not like you woke up at a normal time. You are waking up.
Yeah, but we're talking 6 a.m. Like, it's not, it was still going past 6 o'clock. Like, you're not going to stay up to watch that. That's ridiculous. On a Sunday night into a Monday morning. That's crazy.
Well, we talked about LAFC last time. LAFC... weirdly enough now are our MLS UK show champions because they beat Portland, who beat Seattle, who had it after MLS is back. No, wait. Seattle then beat Portland after MLS is back so Portland had it back, now LAFC. If you got that, well done. But LAFC, yeah, up and down. They find themselves 4th in the West, which, again, is respectable. It's only 5 points off the top. But do we expect more from LAFC?
I think we always expect more. I think there's we've talked about the decline of Atlanta, but that's because their roster is not as good. I think when you look at LAFC, I think we're definitely expecting them to be up the top because of the players that they've got, the players that have already proved that they can do it, have already proved that they're very, very strong. They've got a lot of depth as well. So I think they're one of those teams you expect to be up there, just not just because it's LAFC, but because they've actually got a genuinely really strong roster. Does it matter, however, when there's that many teams that are going to make the playoffs? Does it matter that they're fourth? Not really. They're 5 points off SKC at the top. As long as they stay there or thereabouts. My worry is the West is a lot tighter. So you've got Dallas, Colorado, only 2 points off them, and they're outside those playoff spots.
Well, the interesting thing this season is, and as we've seen actually with some of the results, is home advantage. There's not really a home advantage. No. So you might as well finish 6th, 5th, rather than 2nd, because, okay, you may play a less game if you finish top or whatever, but yeah, it's there's no home advantage anymore. So I guess we're just on a little, for teams who are already pretty much settled to be in the playoffs, we're now just on this stroll. Obviously, the kite being flown is a bit more of a pleasant breeze as we get towards the playoffs.
My question for you is, when you look at top of the East, Columbus, Philadelphia, Toronto, Orlando, you look at the West, SKC, Seattle, Minnesota, those teams like Toronto, clearly, and Columbus, clearly on a good run, going to make the playoffs. When they get there, does the MLS's back tournament kind of ring in the back of their minds? Clubs like Toronto didn't have a good tournament.
No.
So Philadelphia, Orlando, for example, Minnesota got a long way. It went deep into the tournament. Do they have that mental capacity? Does that give them a little bit of strength, a little bit more belief, a bit of confidence? Or is it going to be so far ago that you don't remember?
I'll be honest, when we make our predictions for the playoffs when it comes along, I'm probably not going to pay any attention to it. I think it was great, and your team did well in it, my team didn't, but there were some that did really well, like Portland won it, but looking at them now, they're 6th in their conference. So I think because we now playing matches like every few days, I think this run now will have more significance going into the playoffs than MLS's back, where it was one tournament in they're all staying in one hotel. It's just a bit different. So my answer to you there is no. However, it depends how you look at it. I think for Orlando, or the teams that did quite well in it, that you didn't actually expect them to, then take it, go, be part of the team talks, be like, we've done this before in this sort of playoff, sort of knockout format. Whereas if your team didn't do well and you find yourselves in the playoffs, I think just go off the farm. I think it doesn't matter as much. Maybe
Teams like San Jose may have bigger things on their mind, like the hammering that they took.
Seattle, I put a tweet out apologising because on the last episode we were raving about Seattle. We were saying it's theirs to lose, they're the favourites, and then they went and lost to the Portland. They also lost the MLS UK show championship to Portland. And then they followed that with a 7-1 victory over San Jose, which if they hadn't conceded that goal would be joint biggest score in MLS history. Yeah. But yeah, San Jose, how they react to that will be interesting, because if you look at the table now, San Jose, a second bottom. We probably expected a lot more actually from San Jose 12 months ago. This is what we expected from them. Now, after last season and some results they've had this season early on, we actually expect a lot more from them. So I was really surprised, not with Seattle, because I think Seattle are capable of that. They're a really good team. With San Jose, and looking at the goals and watching the highlights, because again, it was on early morning here, I was really disappointed because they just seemed to give up. And I've not, Almeida's teams, I've not associated that with them. I've not done that. I've associated that with, like the Orlando or Chicago Fire teams from years ago, the New England Revolution teams before Bruce Arena. I haven't associated. So that's worrying. So it's now, I don't know, teams you saw in the Premier League last year, Southampton lost 9-0 to Leicester, had a great run and stayed up comfortably. It's how you react to it.
Yeah, I think as well, it's a perfect example of the West being so much so much tighter. San Jose have played 10 games. They got 10 points. Yeah. Right, it's a point per game. If you're looking into the East, 1 point per game will get you the final spot. I think that's what Atlanta have got now. They've played 11, got 11 points. So it's an example of how the West is a little bit tougher. It is a lot closer. It's a lot tougher. A perfect example, a perfect window into just how good the expertise is on this podcast, I think, is using San Jose as an example. You know, last year when they did well, what did I predict?
You predicted they would finish bottom of just bottom of everything.
Yeah, and after the MLS's back tournament, what did I predict for them this year?
They do quite well.
Yeah, said they do quite well. They're second from bottom. So it just really shows, it really demonstrates. You need to listen to us. We know what we're talking about.
Sticking with the West then. Colorado Rapids, 5-0 against RSL. RSL and Colorado Rapids, we don't really cover that much on the show. We try to, but it's... I just think there's obviously more. There's other things going on, and there's more news coming out of some of the so-called bigger teams. But
they do tend to be those teams that don't grab the headlines.
Yeah, exactly. But they have this weekend, and that's why I wanted to mention it. Colorado Rapids are 10th at the moment. That win has took them within a touching distance of RSL in the playoffs. What a big result for Colorado Rapids. We kind of expect stuff from Colorado. We always like the recruitment we do, but we just never quite work. So can they push forward? Is this the year they finally break into the playoffs?
I really want to see it. I really hope so. I don't know when it comes to the recruitment that we like. I think maybe you then have to look every year when it doesn't quite work out. Maybe you have to look at coach, not just the head coach, but what's surrounding them. When it comes to academy, what sort of scouting they're doing when it comes to the drafts, is there other ways of kind of strengthening? Because it always seems like they do recruit quite well.
Yeah.
There just doesn't seem to quite click. So yeah, I'm interested to see, similar to we've seen coaches come in like Almeida. San Jose didn't really strengthen when they brought him in, but he just had an impact like that. So I think that's what we need to see from Colorado. We need a season where they do kind of break the mold, buck the trend. Because they are a big club and they've got a history in MLS which needs to be respected. It's so tight, as we've just said. So they're sort of lingering around with Dallas and RSL, Houston, Portland, all on the same points. So we'll treat them fairly and we'll say that they're definitely currently sort of in the playoff picture, even though they're out of it, just because of how tight it is. But even LAFC have only got 2 more points than them. So it's just so tight. I think looking at the standings is almost irrelevant. You have to look at those wins. That scoring 5, that's exactly the kind of confidence that you need, that you want to take into the rest of the season, because they're going to be coming up against those teams more and more, and that playoff picture will become clearer if you start beating those teams around you.
And RSL, how the best way to explain RSL to people who haven't been watching MLS. Now, we've been covering it for 3 seasons now, and their results in the last week probably explain RSL the best we could ever explain it. 3-0 at home to LAFC.
Yep.
Then lose 5-0 away at home to Colorado Rapids. They are that team where they are probably going to finish in and around 8th, 6th, 7th in the conference, because we've seen this and they just can't seem to get that run going. I think they finished 4th, which is the best we've seen them. They are that team that they will concede 50 goals, 60 goals, but they'll also score 60 goals in the regular season. Yeah. And I think that this week just epitomises that.
That's everything about MLS. I think it's that you don't ever bet on MLS, because RSL will beat LAFC and then get hammered the next week. But also, if it's going to be tight. We're looking at that thinking, it's so close. It is going to be one result for RSL that could change everything. So they need a few more of those LAFC results rather than where they're getting hammered at home.
Moving into the East then, DC United, shout out to DC United, joint record breakers. Did you see this last week in their 0-0 draw against New York City? Were only the second team in MLS history to have no shots in a game. The other team was New England Revolution when we lost 7-0 to Atlanta a few years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
So shout out to DC. They lost to Red Bulls at the weekend and find themselves just one place below the playoffs. We seem to be talking about DC on every episode and saying, well, what did we expect this season? They've made some good signings like Julian Gressel. They've had some bad luck with injuries. But where are they at the moment? Because I'm starting to see more and more DC fans come through now and be saying, like, we need a change with Ben Olsen. And I know there's been a few in recent years because he's been there a long time, but you're starting to see it more and more now. Is that what they need? I know they've changed some of the players, but do they need a change at the head coach level now?
With Ben Olsen, I think, okay, you want to change it, fine. You can change it and you'll probably get some better results. That tends to be what happens. But I've touched on this before, and the reason I'm going to mention it again is because so many DC fans message me and they're like, you're so right. You're spot on. The roster, it's not good enough. It's not big enough. So when you're Ben Olsen and you're 3 games in a week or 3 games in 8 days, for example, you have to rotate. We've seen big teams leaving out big players because you have to rotate. You have to give them a break when you're traveling and playing constantly and training constantly. They need a break. They need a rest. There needs to be rotation. DC don't have a strong enough roster to rotate. They've got a great 11, maybe 12, maybe 13. But outside of that, they love promoting players from the youth team, which is great. Love to see that. But there kind of needs to be the middle ground. The signing of Pippa, for example, great. We need more like that. Not going to start the game, not going to, be the first name on the team sheet, but great depth, great player to bring on in the 70th minute, instead of the kids that have no experience. Yes, it's great to see them coming through, but if you're 1-0 down, there's no point just bringing on kids. So I think they need more depth rather than just pointing the finger at Ben Olsen. But again, a change of coach wouldn't hurt. But what's the point mid-season? What's give him the roster he deserves, and if he fails, then it's on him, I think.
Yeah. So one last, right, here's your roster.
Yeah.
This is it now. You've been here long enough. If you're successful, you've got another few years of
Let's not forget, the guy lost Wayne Rooney. This was a team that was going to be built around Wayne Rooney, and now he's gone. And, they haven't replaced him. There's not many players in the league that could have replaced him, no matter who they signed. So, yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit harsh. I understand if poor decisions are being made tactically and substitutions and stuff, but I don't think he's got the right options to be making the best of what DC could have.
Did the Wayne Rooney signing mask the problems there? Because if you think of DC before Rooney signed, they were similar position to what they are now.
Yeah.
Rooney signs, they make the playoffs, they do well, and now we're back to where they were.
Well, last season they still had that small roster, so he was masking that problem, and there were games where he was suspended, there was games where he was injured, games where he didn't play because he had to be rotated, and it's exactly what I've just said. It was masking the problem. You're spot on, because actually there wasn't many options to replace him.
We're going to talk about Inter Miami later in the episode. We talked about the Higuain signing in the last episode, and that's becoming a lot closer now. So we're going to talk about them a bit more. Lastly, then, in the East, I actually want to talk about Philadelphia Union, because a good win the weekend, last-minute goal, 2-1. And they carried on the form from last season. They're on this roller coaster now that's only going up after last season. Can they? I don't want to be like, can they win MLS Cup? Can they win Supporters Shield? And who are their challengers in your eyes?
Supporters Shield, I think, would be a massive achievement for Philadelphia. I wouldn't mind seeing it, if I'm honest. I think SKC have set their stall out early, so have Seattle, really, really strong. Minnesota as well, let's not forget, a really good team. They seem to be dominating the West. The West tends to be a little bit stronger than the East. So even if Philly were to win the East, would they win the whole thing? I don't know. But I like to think that they're definitely going to be up there. And I've said before, I like what they do. I like that Curtin's been there for a long while. He knows exactly what he wants. His youth coaches know exactly what he's going to want. If they're to recommend a player for him, yeah, well, he can play that diamond that you like. He can sit in front of the defence if he's looking for a defensive midfielder. If he's looking for a winger, he can play quite narrow inside because that's the way that they like to do it. They're a very, very well set up club, very well organised. There's been a few questionable signings, but I think overall they really know what they want to do, what they want to achieve. There's no superstars, as we always say, and that could be the way. They could prove that is the way to do it. But again, it's going to be hinged on these results. These so many results where it can go one of two ways, and it's going to be very close this year. You can see it already.
Well, I guess we just talked about DC. Maybe DC can look at what Curtin's doing at Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for us. We can do it for Ben Olsen.
Elliot Holman, Henry Hewitt, MLS UK show.
Okay, so coming up on the MLS UK show, we're going to be talking about Inter Miami and the Higuain impending signing. We're going to be talking about the new schedule, Canadian teams no longer playing in Canada. I've got my guide to New Jersey. And first, it's a time for another round of...
The Christ is right. It's our higher or lower game, and this week it is based on Seattle's incredible win over San Jose. We're going to be looking at the biggest winning margins in MLS history. So, Henry Hewitt, come on down. I'll give you the first one. Unsurprisingly, it's Seattle Sounders versus San Jose. The winning margin was, of course, 6. Higher or lower, Atlanta United versus New England Revolution.
Oh, the good old days. That was 7.
It was 7-goal thriller, all in favour of Atlanta, of course. Okay, back to 1998. There was a 7-goal thriller between LA Galaxy and Colorado Rapids. But was the winning margin higher or lower?
Oh, I'm going to say... Well, it wasn't higher, so I'm going to go lower.
It was lower. It was only 3. Oh. Close game, that one. SKC versus Montreal from March of 2019. Higher or lower than 3?
I remember this. It was higher.
It was higher. It was 6. LA versus SKC, September 2019. Higher or lower than 6?
Lower.
It was lower by 1. Okay, and finally, New York Red Bulls versus NYCFC in May of 2016. I remember it well. Higher or lower?
So do I. What a game. It was higher.
It was higher. Very good work today.
Thank you.
Have you been doing your homework? Did you know I was going to do this?
Well, you could, yeah. I've done a little bit of homework on this one.
Okay, well done, well played.
Right then, new schedule in MLS. They've given an extra playoff place to the East. Thank you very much.
And we still won't make it.
Yeah, Orlando expect a collapse to finish 11th. No, this is because Nashville have, of course, gone into the East from the West to make it easier with this COVID world that we're living in. You sent me this. You saw this before I did. You sent me it, and I was just like, I looked at it, and I might as well have been looking at some sort of scientific sort of equation. It took me a while to get my head around it, so I think it's best for you.
Can I be honest? I sent it to you, and I hoped that you'd have some kind of observation, so that because I was looking at it like, what is that? I always thought, Henry will pick the bones out of that for me.
Oh well. I was going to bring back a feature that we have only done once, and it was when, I can't remember who I was interviewing in our isolation interview series, but you sent me a voice note, and it was called Elliot Explains, and it was the MLS's back tournament. I was hoping to bring that back, however, I guess we're going to have to make the most of it now, of what we can read into it, because there's going to be, there's a 10v9th and 8v7 kind of situation in the East, and that'll the 2 extra teams then will become the same amount.
The higher seed and the lower seed then place. So, for example, whoever finishes top of the East and the West will play the lower seed play-in. It's a play-in. They're calling it a play-in. So there's a playoff to get into the playoffs. I mean...
So MLS. It's what we love.
It's literally the most MLS thing. So yeah, you want to finish top of those, top of those leagues, just because you're going to get that.
Which league? the league for the playoffs? The league for the playoffs?
There's too much. There's too much. So the top spot in the East and the West are going to play the winner of those play-ins. So effectively, you're going to... That does make sense because you're going to be playing the technically weakest side if you finish first. So that's the incentive. We were talking about it earlier. Is there an incentive to finish top? Because, you want those home games, but does it matter? There's not going to be many fans there. I think that's the incentive. I think playing what would currently be someone like who's like Atlanta in that bottom playoff spot currently, great team, but bit off form. You want to finish top so that you can play a side like that rather than getting a Philadelphia Union or a Seattle or an SKC or a Minnesota.
We do joke, but of course you're playing less games and you'll be fresher. And of course we know how MLS works, especially at playoff stages, and it's pretty much like 2 days after the regular season. There's teams that have this huge celebration that they make the playoffs, and 2 days later they're out.
It's all over. We're not going to shave until we're knocked out of the oh, guys, right, it's happening. Shave. Everyone shave.
Elsewhere, Canadian teams won't be playing in Canada anymore for the rest of the season, or for the foreseeable, as it seems. So we've got Montreal, who will be joining New York City and New York Red Bulls at the Red Bull Arena in New Jersey. Toronto will be playing in Connecticut. It's not even an MLS stadium, but it's playing in Connecticut. And Vancouver Whitecaps will be playing in their Cascadia Cousins ground in Portland. This again, could this have an impact on what's happening? Toronto at the top end of the East at the moment. They're now no longer playing at BMO Field, where they've been picking up points. Apart from was it Vancouver they lost to, or Montreal? Can't remember.
I can't remember.
It was a bit of a surprise.
They've all played each other so many times, I can't remember what's happened.
Is this going to affect how they do?
Yes and no. I think this year we're all kind of used to things being up in the air and moving around. And the clubs, let's not forget, the clubs will do their best to make these players and these coaches as comfortable as they possibly can. So when they're training, when they're going to the stadium, afterwards, like their accommodation, everything is going to be geared up to be make their lives as easy as possible, so that they feel at home, so they feel relaxed, and so that they can perform. So let's not underestimate that. It's not like they're just getting on a rickety old bus and rocking up to the stadium that's miles away. They'll be training with this in mind. So I think it's been difficult for everyone. Don't forget as well that teams have just been playing the same teams over and over and over again. So some of the weaker teams that are geographically located next to stronger sides, taking a hammering every week, it's not exactly been a level playing field for anyone. So I think it's just important that we get them playing. What we want to avoid is a situation where the Canadian teams are not playing as many games, because then you get into the realms of, that's not fair. And, so I think they've done what they need to do. I think that, what is the solution? It's good that they're going to be in America, not having to keep crossing the border, which is important, away from soccer. That's very important. And I just think it's one of those things. We've seen teams uprooted to Florida, then they've gone home. Now they're uprooted to New York and Portland and Connecticut. It's just one of those things that's all part of this crazy, crazy year. And whoever wins it this year, fair play to you.
Is this then, bearing in mind that amongst the new schedule is that teams will now be playing other teams that are kind of outside their sort of area? Can this affect things? Because if you look at the likes of Toronto, and I know they've lost a few games, but you would put Toronto at the top of what's happening in Canada at the moment. Could this be now a whole new ball game, because they're playing better teams? Effectively,
they're playing the top teams in the East are now having a real test and playing teams in the West. Orlando played Portland and lost in the final. This is where the real test comes, and in terms of the Supporters' Shield, this is going to be really important when both those leagues are mashed together, and you look at who's top there. Currently, there's a lot of Western sides that are very close together and all up there. They're all very, very close. So the Eastern teams are going to have to start proving themselves. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Elsewhere, the big news coming out of MLS, and this is getting even warmer now, pardon the pun with it being Miami, Higuain has been actually seen in Miami ahead of a deal that would make him the highest paid player in MLS, which is no surprise, of course. We spoke about the impact Higuain could make on the last episode. We compared it to when David Villa came to New York City or Zlatan came to LA Galaxy.
Yeah.
As Inter Miami as a team then, could this as a team have the same impact as when Rooney came to DC? They find themselves bottom of the conference. They're winning more games now, which is great, but they're bottom of the conference. Him coming in, could we see a Miami actually finish 4th or 5th? 6th?
I think on paper, you have to admit it's a great signing. I think we as MLS fans love to see this kind of thing. It shows that it's a big league. Like, we're a big league. We're not a retirement league that everyone keeps saying. It's great that we're attracting these players. But with Rooney, you and I have both grown up watching him play in the Premier League, and we know what kind of character he is, what kind of effect he would have on the dressing room. The man's been England captain. I don't know Higuain. I don't know what he's like as a person. I don't know how, because what that club needs is a real leader.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, but Beckham's not there at the minute. He can't fly over there.
Yeah.
You know, even his presence, I feel, would make a difference. You know, somebody that players look up to and respect. Higuain's going to have that respect, but it's about how they approach these games. You can't just pass it to Higuain and hope everything's going to be fine. There's a lot bigger problems at Miami in terms of the goals that they're letting in, etc. So I don't know him personally, so I don't know what kind of effect he's going to have in the changing room. But I hope, for their sake, that it really uplifts them, because Miami is it's been on the radar for so long for MLS fans with the Beckham thing, and I think everybody wants to see them compete, because that's what we want. We want close games. We want close championships. We want it to be exciting. So we want to see them up there. We want to see them fighting. Yes, it's great that they've been playing Atlanta and they've been playing Orlando, but let's see them play Atlanta and Orlando in the playoffs. That would be so good.
Yeah, exactly. It's Higuain is 32, so he's the same age as what Rooney was when he signed for them. I feel Higuain, you're going to have to get the ball to Higuain a bit more than you did to Wayne Rooney, because Wayne Rooney is the player. He will come back, he'll collect the ball, we saw it with some of the tackles he did. He'll be running all over the pitch, whereas Higuain's more of a striker. We briefly saw him in the Premier League for Chelsea, which I'll be honest, I completely forgot about. He's consistently done it in Serie A. So the goals are there, but it's the marquee signing that they needed. It's 8.8 million for 2 years, but he has to deliver. He can't be like Chicharito and sort of ease his way into it. He has to deliver.
Yeah, LA Galaxy have other players. I feel like Miami are yet to prove that they've really got anything other than what he's going to bring.
Yeah, because into Miami, there's a lot of pressure on them. And I know as an Orlando fan, you joke about them and whatever, and we do forget this. There's a lot of pressure on them, because I was reading a headline today of I think it was Sky Sports or BBC or whoever it was here in the UK, who when they talked about the weekend in MLS, they said David Beckham's into Miami remain bottom of the conference. That's where they stand, is that if they're bottom of the conference, no one's looking and going, this is the first season, they're still adjusting stuff. They're going, this is David Beckham's team, they're bottom of the conference. So they need Higuain to kick off, to start well. And I'll be honest, I think he will. I think he'll have a good season. And watching him against Atlanta, they did create chances. And even if it's breakaways or whatever, Higuain's he's not going to be back for corners. He's going to be stood on the halfway line. So you've got that outlet there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm so intrigued to see how it'll turn about. But I'm confident for him. I think he's the player they need, and I think they'll go up the table. The
problem I've got with this is that as an Orlando fan and an MLS fan, and over here in the UK where we're trying to grow the league, trying to increase its popularity, we need Miami to be doing well. There's so much more media attention over here because of David Beckham owning the team. So we need them to be doing well. However, I want them at a safe distance at the same time.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Although, come on, for the league, if there's an Orlando into Miami rivalry that is in the playoffs, it kind of like where LAFC and LA Galaxy is the moment.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's only good for them.
Remember when we had that other rivalry?
MLS UK show. with Elliot Holman and Henry Hewitt.
So before we go, it's time for me to take another journey to a place within North America.
I think we've all been looking forward to this.
Yeah, last time I did New York City, so it's time to go across the state line into New Jersey and see what happens in New Jersey. Because, as I always say, we know so much about these places in America and Canada where MLS teams are, but we don't know specifics about it. We didn't know about the pizza principle in New York City.
The Spam Museum.
The Spam Museum in Minnesota. There's a museum in New Jersey. So
is there?
That's to come. Elliot Holman, start the theme tune. Let's do Henry's Guide to New Jersey.
New Jersey, of course, famous for its country music.
Every time. We'll do Nashville
eventually. It's going to annoy me when Nashville comes up.
Hey, Elliot.
Hey, Henry.
Did you know there are more cars stolen in Newark than any other city in the US?
Wow. What an opening stat.
There are more toxic waste dumps in New Jersey than anywhere else in the US.
I once booked a trip to New Jersey. It didn't come off in the end, and I'm currently quite glad about it. It sounds horrific.
There are 108, in case you're wondering, although it is the home to the tallest water tower in the world.
Sorry, do you want me to...
Its capital is Trenton, and Red Bulls, they play in Harrison, New Jersey, which is just outside of Trenton, I believe. I may be wrong, but that's what Google told me.
Not the only team to play in New Jersey at the minute either.
No, it's about 10th of the league are playing in New Jersey. The first ever baseball game, that was held in New Jersey, and the name New Jersey, just like New York, it's called New York because of York within the UK. Jersey, the Isle of Jersey, that's where New Jersey gets its name from.
Wow.
Famous people from New Jersey include, let me rattle off this list because it's as impressive as New York, apart from Donald Trump. New Jersey's famous folk include John Travolta, Frank Sinatra, Whitney Houston, Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito, Bruce Springsteen, and the guy who inspired the name of one of the greatest movie characters ever, Buzz Aldrin.
Nice. And Donald Trump, but we won't talk about that.
9.2 million residents live in New Jersey. 90% live in urban areas, which is the most in the US as well. And finally, and this is the one you were waiting for, New Jersey has a spoon museum.
Oh.
It has 5,400 spoons, including one from every state and almost every country.
Wow.
And there you go, Elliot. That is Henry's Guide to New Jersey.
Sewage dumps and spoon museums. What's not to love? Okay, where are we going next time?
We're going to put it out to the listeners. Get in touch with us. hello@mls.show. You can email us, tweet us at MLSUK or comment below if you're watching on YouTube. Where would you like me to visit next time? We've done New Jersey, New York, Minnesota, Portland, Orlando. We did Cincinnati. We've done else. Vancouver. We did
New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey now. I also did Manchester as the first one, just as an example. So I might do Norwich one day if we run out.
It won't take long. Okay, well, to round off, shall I give you the answer to today's game with a change in name?
Please do, because I'll be honest, I have no idea who this is. Even with the hint that it's a famous brother of someone who's won the Premier League, I still don't have a clue.
Okay, so they were born on the 17th of December, 1990. So they're currently 29, just like me. They started their career in 2008 at Macclesfield Town, played 41 times.
Right.
Moved to New York Red Bulls, played 5 times before a move to Orlando to play in the USL. 9 appearances, 2 goals. Came back to the UK, played for Barnsley, Bury, Chester, Wrexham, Guiseley, Barrow, and are currently at Stockport County. And their older brother...
I think I know this.
Oh, has he got it?
I think I know this, and I know it because Barrow's manager has just gone to Bolton. So there were a few Bolton fans looking at Barrow's team going, is there any players we could get? Mm-hmm. And one of the players actually then went and signed for Stockport. Not that we were interested, just this was one of the players who they thought. His brother is Wayne Rooney.
Correct.
But I don't know the guy's first name.
It's John.
John Rooney.
John John and Wayne, were their parents into the cinema by any chance? John Rooney, formerly of New York Red Bulls in Orlando City.
Wow, maybe he paved the way for his brother to sign for DC.
Maybe. Shame he didn't persuade him to join Orlando. Never mind. So if you got that, congratulations. And the surname, Rooney, will get you 10% off if you enter it as a discount code buying your Get In t-shirt.
Yes, I'll put the social handles, our website, come up on the screen. Right, that's it from us today. We'll be back next time. Thanks very much for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube and for your podcast provider as well. Leave us a rating as well, because the more you rate us, and Elliot, there's one rule for that.
Yeah, like the LA Galaxy stars, 5 only.
Yeah, the more you rate it, the more you put comments as well, it helps the podcast grow, so we'd really appreciate it. And yeah, just that's what we that's, I don't know what to say, that's just what we need. We need your help.
I think it's the perfect time to wrap up.
Thanks for listening, thanks for watching. We'll be back next time. Elliot, have you got one last line to say?
It's been quite dry today on the old GI front, hasn't it? On the old Get In counter.
Yeah, I think it was it 11 last time I counted?
Yeah, well, we'll keep it low for now, in anticipation of us facing Atlanta again potentially soon. Get In.
See ya.